All right, training camp day 8. I'm not sure exactly what it is. When you're watching this video, hopefully you're watching this instead of watching the Bears second unit go against the Texans second unit in the Hall of Fame game, and most likely their third and fourth units. But anyways, we have two people that are absolutely standing out that have kind of separated themselves and are, quite frankly, a surprise. One on the defensive side of the ball and one on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, it's a surprise, but how good he's playing is even more of a surprise. Like, you could expect it, but you kind of forgot about him. On the offensive side, it's someone we've talked about on this show, but not someone that we ever expected to do anything, honestly, even make this team. I thought he was a long shot to make this team. Now it looks like not only is he going to make the team, but he's the favorite to be a starter in the wide receiver core. So let's go ahead and talk about who these two players are. First, on the defensive side of the ball, we have Levi Onwuzurike. Now, it's not that big of a shock that he's playing well. If his back is healthy, this is a second-round pick. Remember, this is a guy that we drafted ahead of Aleem McNeil. This is the player that we wanted on our team even more than we wanted Aleem McNeil. And Aleem McNeil is playing his way into being a $20 million defensive tackle coming up in this next cycle. And Brad Holmes even said Aleem McNeil is the next guy that we're looking to get his deal done. But what about Levi Onwuzurike? Would Aleem McNeil even be getting those shots if Onwuzurike had been so good from the beginning? So here's a crazy quote, and I want to show this to you. By the way, if you don't, you can follow us on Twitter. All right, Sports Talk Detroit. And we do more on YouTube, I'll admit that. But it might be nice to follow us on Twitter just to get some updates there as well. Lions' new guard, Kevin Zeitler, when asked for his thoughts on the defensive line, said, I think we're going to have two $20+ million D tackles soon. All right. So what do you mean? Like, Reader's not making 20 mil, right? So who are you talking about there? When followed up with him to ask who he was talking about, he said Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike. So he is thinking that if he stays healthy, if he is able to play enough steps, that Levi Onwuzurike will be a good enough defensive tackle this year that he will warrant a $20 million contract in the offseason. And yes, it will be in the offseason, because when you look at his contract for Levi Onwuzurike, what you see is that he is in line to, it's the end of his rookie contract. Let's just put it that way. All right, this year he's making $1.7 million. So sorry, that went over to there. I'll get it back for you. All right, $1.7 million. His cap hit is 2.5. So actually, that's what he's making, is almost $2.6 million. That's his rookie contract. He's about to sign his second contract. He's going to want to get everything. Can we afford to pay both him and Aleem McNeil that? No, we cannot. But you never know. If he plays well, you might be able to get him in that 10 to 15 range. You give McNeil the big contract, and there you go. But let's not put the cart before the horse here. What I'm excited to see is that you have a veteran guard who's been in this league for over a decade, in Kevin Zeitler. And he is saying that he believes, because he's going against him in practice every day. And Levi Onwuzurike, we've gotten the reports that he has been playing with the starters every single day. Like, he is the first guy out there with Aleem McNeil. They're the 1-2 punch as DJ Reader continues to rehab that torn quad. So they're out there together. If he can actually be that good, we will have 3 phenomenal defensive tackles. And when you're able to rotate your defensive tackles without losing much, that depth is an unbelievable asset. It's unbelievable. And what I like about Levi Onwuzurike is that he can hold up against the run and he can rush the pass. Remember, when we drafted this guy, he was the guy who we all loved in the interview because he said, I just like to mess stuff up. He said it with more colorful language. All right, but that's what he likes to do as a defensive tackle. Just get in there and mess things up. And that's exactly what he will do, all right, for this team. Now, that's the defensive side of the ball. Who we looking at on the offensive side of the ball? We've already talked about him on this channel, but we're going to learn a little bit more about him in this one. And it is Doris Fountain, wide receiver. So let's do a deeper dive into exactly who this guy is. All right, let's do a deeper dive into who this Doris Fountain guy is, because maybe he's good. Maybe he's good. So here's what we know. In receiver drills yesterday, actually, based on when I'm reading this article, the Lions ran 3-man sets with 2 blockers and a ball carrier. St. Brown, Williams, and the third wide receiver, Doris Fountain. When the first team offense takes the field in 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers, 1 tight end, and a running back, it's been St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and Doris Fountain. He's there. He's been consistent from the beginning of the camp until now, from everything we're hearing from multiple beat reporters. And he continues to get more and more and more opportunities. A week ago, day 1, 2, 3, 4 of camp, when they were running 11 personnel, when they were running 3-man sets, all right, that third wide receiver was sometimes Fountain, but most of the time it was Antoine Green. Now Doris Fountain is the one who has taken over, and he is the one that is consistently playing with the ones. And you're going to hear a quote here from Ben Johnson in just a second. But before you get there, the beat writers are talking about how much athleticism he's been showing. His ability to jump and come down with contested catches, get the ball, has been phenomenal. So I was like, well, is he that athletic? And we've talked about this a little bit. And the answer, to be completely honest, is yes, he is. All right, he has an RAS of 8.01. He was a 5th-round pick out of Northern Iowa 6 years ago. Where has this guy been? He's played like 6 offensive snaps for the Indianapolis Colts back in like 2021 or something like that. All right, his speed is fine, 4.5. It's not like burner speed, but it's more than serviceable. All right, his height is good. He's 6'2". All right, based on other things. He's 200. He's even more. I think he's 210 pounds. So we're going to talk about that. But look at this vertical jump. Has one of the highest vertical jumps ever by a wide receiver. Ever. One of the biggest broad jumps by a wide receiver ever. What does that mean? Why are vertical jump and broad jump important? It gives you a bigger range, a bigger catch radius for your quarterback. Think about Calvin Johnson. Big-bodied, could jump out of the gym, could jump off the field. That is, you get a little bit of that. Like the broad jump and vertical jump is similar to what we saw with Calvin Johnson. I'm not saying he's Calvin Johnson. Get out of here with that. His playing height and playing weight as listed is 6'2", 210 pounds. So what about the 2 guys that he's going for on that receiver spot? You have Antoine Green, 6'2", 200. We all think of Antoine Green as a big-bodied receiver. Doris Fountain's actually bigger. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I thought for sure was like 6'3", 6'4". He's 6'2", 204. Doris Fountain is the biggest of these wide receivers. All right, so let's talk about Ben Johnson. We got to hear from him for the first time, all right, just today. And here's what he said we need in that third wide receiver spot. All right, he said the second outside receiver, knowing that J-Mo is the number 1 outside receiver. St. Brown's working the slot. He said we need smart, we need reliable, okay? And if we had to be picky, we want a little bit of length. Doris Fountain has the length. All right, we're going to talk about Collie Freeman here in a second. So with that being said, we're charting every single day who's the most reliable. Mental errors, who's catching the ball, who's dropping the ball. These guys see it. Reese Fountain has certainly come on so far in training camp. His physicality, his explosiveness has shown up. Antoine Green is still pushing along here. We see growth from the springtime. We just need to see the consistency that we've been hoping for from him. 2nd-year receiver, right? 7th-round pick. Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ, has made some big plays for us. He had a big block just the other day in practice that we took note of, and we know what Khalif Raymond is. The competition is healthy. Those are a few names, but everyone is in it at this point. Okay, everyone's in it at this point. That's not true. All right? The 4 guys that are up for that spot, he mentioned. Antoine Green, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Khalif Raymond, and Doris Fountain. And by process of elimination, we can say Khalif Raymond isn't it. If you have to use him in a pinch, you absolutely can. Of course you can. But they want to use him on the field. They'll have some fun stuff with him. He'll get snaps. A lot of them will be if St. Brown can't go, if he's hurt at some point, because you don't drop off a ton. You drop off a lot, don't get me wrong. But it's not a ridiculous amount from St. Brown to Khalif Raymond. He's the perfect guy to have backup in the slot, and that allows him to continue to do the other things that he's good at. Punt returns, gadget plays, things like that. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's on a 1-year, $2 million contract. Like, you don't owe anything to him. It's not like he's a guaranteed roster spot. So the way I look at it is if things continue to go the way they're going, are you going to give it to the young buck and Antoine Green, or are you going to give it to Doris Fountain? This is a team that wants to win a Super Bowl right now. This is a team that is in their championship window. They're giving it to the best player. All right, Antoine Green still has 2 more years on his contract. He can grow into that next thing. All right, he can continue to grow into it. Doris Fountain can have a great year with us, and maybe we can't pay him next year. I don't know. Right? But Doris Fountain is a guy who's been around the league for 6 years. He was on our practice squad all of last year. If he can be a more explosive version of Josh Reynolds, look out. What if we actually improved by not re-signing Josh Reynolds? So there's a defensive guy for you. There's an offensive guy for you. Cannot wait to see what happens this year. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.